We were a perfect match of flaws.
Right.
We went together very well, but not necessarily for the right reasons.
Yeah.
For decades, an untold truth lingered behind one of her most iconic films, Smokey and the Bandit. Sally Field stunned fans when she revealed, "That kiss with Burt Reynolds was the worst kiss I ever had." This shocked many, given the undeniable chemistry they shared both on and off screen. But what's even more surprising, their intense romantic connection, which blossomed during the film, ultimately ended in estrangement. Field has said they didn't speak for over 30 years before Reynolds passed away. Despite their broken ties, Reynolds publicly declared in a 2015 interview, "She was the love of my life. I miss her terribly." How does someone go from America's TV sweetheart to a two-time Oscar winner with a career filled with stunning revelations and emotional highs and lows? Sally Field has lived a life that could rival any Hollywood script, filled with breakthrough roles, groundbreaking performances, untold trauma, and a love story that left her both heartbroken and forever changed. Now, 48 years later, what did really happen between Sally Field and Burt Reynolds after Smokey and the Bandit? Let's find out. Before Sally Field was the beloved girl next door or a Hollywood powerhouse, her earliest years were shaped by dramatic contradictions. On the surface, she seemed to have it all. A mother who worked with Paramount Pictures and an early exposure to the glitz and shine of Hollywood. But look a little closer, and you'll see a childhood riddled with heartache and trauma that profoundly shaped who she was and who she would become. At just 4 years old, Sally's seemingly happy life came crashing down when her parents divorced. The separation left a lasting impact on Sally, filling her early years with feelings of instability and rejection. Things looked up when her mother remarried stuntman and actor Jock Mahoney, whose Hollywood status brought excitement and energy into their family. But behind the bright lights of Tinseltown lay a painful secret. In her 2018 memoir, In Pieces, Sally revealed that Mahoney had abused her during her teenage years. For decades, she kept this experience hidden from the world, but it shaped how she approached her work, relationships, and identity for the rest of her life. Amidst this turmoil, acting became Sally's escape. A naturally gifted and expressive child, she found herself gravitating towards school theater performances. Acting provided a way to process her emotions and gain a sense of self-worth that was missing at home. It wasn't long before fate intervened. At a high school party when she was just 17, a chance meeting with a talent agent changed her life forever. He suggested she enroll in an acting workshop at Columbia Studios, a small step that would launch her onto the path toward stardom. The workshop was grueling, filled with other young hopefuls desperate for their first industry break. But even at this early stage, Sally's emotional depth and sincerity stood out. Casting director Marsha Levy noticed her ability to bring raw authenticity to her performances and pushed her to audition for television roles. 1 year later, Sally would land her first leading role in Gidget, setting her on a path that would simultaneously bring her fame and tie her to an image she would later fight tirelessly to break. Sally's early life, filled with pain and determination, laid the foundation for the resilient, brilliant actress she would become. But Hollywood had no idea who they were dealing with yet, and Sally Field was just getting started. When Sally Field landed her first major role at just 18 years old, it was every young actress's dream come true. She beat out 75 other hopefuls to star in the breezy sitcom Gidget, where she played a fun-loving surfer girl navigating the highs and lows of teenage life in Southern California. The show premiered in 1965, and while it only ran for 1 season, reruns turned Sally into a teenage sensation. However, the role of Gidget, young, cheerful, and bubbly, came to define her image, and it wasn't long before this label became a cage. ABC quickly saw potential in Sally and needed another project to harness her growing popularity. The Flying Nun, one of the most unusual sitcoms of the 1960s. As Sister Bertrille, a young nun whose lightweight frame and oversized cornet, the headpiece she wore, allowed her to literally fly, Sally found herself playing a character that was as absurd as it was wholesome. Critics were baffled by the concept, but audiences loved the show. It ran for 3 seasons and 82 episodes from 1967 to 1970, cementing Sally's reputation as America's sweetheart. But fame came at a price. Behind the scenes, Sally was miserable. She later admitted she hated working on The Flying Nun. While professionally grateful, she felt frustrated and trapped by roles that highlighted her innocence and charm, but stifled her desire for serious or meaningful work. Even as her stardom rose, Hollywood couldn't see her as anything but the girl next door. By the early 1970s, Sally had had enough. Tired of being stuck in sugary sweet roles that didn't reflect the complexity she wanted to bring to her craft, she made what many described as a career suicidal decision. She flat out refused to accept any more sitcom roles. For 3 years, she turned down lucrative television offers, choosing instead to risk everything to reinvent herself as a serious actress. To do this, Sally enrolled in the prestigious Actors Studio in Los Angeles, training under the legendary Lee Strasberg. She spent years honing her skills and breaking down the barriers that had been built around her early career. The work was grueling but transformative. Actors Studio alumni often spoke about how Strasberg forced performers to confront their personal traumas, using raw emotion to bring depth and honesty to their roles. For Sally, still carrying the pain of her childhood, this was a way not just to improve her craft, but to process her grief and frustration. Her hard work finally bore fruit in 1976, though the transition wasn't without controversy. In the film Stay Hungry, Sally took on the role of Mary Tate Farnsworth, a gym receptionist in a comedy drama about the world of competitive bodybuilding. The film, directed by Bob Rafelson, required Sally to take risks she'd never considered before, including appearing topless on screen, a shocking move for someone so closely associated with wholesome TV roles. Sally later admitted that she was terrified to play the part, but it was her way of signaling to Hollywood that she was serious about taking on bold adult roles. Though Stay Hungry wasn't a box office success, critics began to see a new side of Sally Field. The film earned Arnold Schwarzenegger his first major acting role, and Sally's performance, subtle and layered, proved that she could leave television behind. Still, the transformation wasn't complete. Hollywood continued to see her as a TV actress trying to punch above her weight. Sally knew she needed one more career-defining moment to finally break free of her lightweight image. But Sally Field was nothing if not persistent. Her determination and refusal to play by the industry's rules set the stage for the breakthrough of a lifetime, one that would change her career forever. Sally Field's breakthrough came in a way no one could have predicted. After years of being underestimated as the cheerful TV actress from The Flying Nun and Gidget, she took on the role that would finally prove her unmatched talent, the intense and groundbreaking Sybil in 1976. The made-for-TV movie was based on the true story of a woman with dissociative identity disorder, a complex role that required Sally to portray not just one character, but 13 distinct personalities, each with unique mannerisms, voices, and emotional nuances. It was a feat most seasoned actors would hesitate to attempt, let alone someone trying to break out of a typecast mold. Sally's preparation was exhaustive. Determined to do the role justice, she spent 6 months researching the disorder, working with a dialect coach to craft the nuances of each personality, and even observing patients in psychiatric wards for inspiration. Sally threw herself into the work, knowing that this was her chance to prove herself as a serious actress. The filming itself was even more grueling. For 12 weeks, she worked 16-hour days, pushing herself physically and emotionally to her limits. In one particularly challenging scene, where Sybil relives a traumatic childhood memory, Sally dislocated her shoulder. Despite the injury, she insisted on finishing the take, a testament to her relentless dedication to the craft. When Sybil aired on NBC in November 1976, it became an instant sensation, drawing over 92 million viewers, nearly half the U.S. population at the time. Critics were blown away by Sally's performance, calling it a masterclass in emotional range. She went on to win her first Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress, and with it she shattered the image of her earlier career. Sally Field was no longer the girl next door. She was now a force to be reckoned with in the world of serious drama. But she wasn't done yet. Just a few years later, in 1979, Sally landed the role that would cement her place among the Hollywood elite, the scrappy textile worker and union organizer Norma Ray. Directed by Martin Ritt, the role brought Sally to a small southern town where she immersed herself in the lives of real mill workers to prepare for the part. She spent weeks in a textile mill, learning firsthand about the harsh conditions and backbreaking labor many women in the South endured. Sally's commitment extended far beyond just memorizing the script. She lived and breathed Norma Ray's struggles, infusing the character with a strength that resonated deeply with audiences. The film's most unforgettable moment was the scene where Norma Ray stands on a table holding a sign that reads "Union," defiantly calling for change. That single image became an iconic symbol of workers' rights and Sally's power as an actress. Behind the scenes, the moment was anything but easy. The scene was filmed over several hours in a boiling hot mill, with Sally repeating the action countless times to get it just right. Adding to the challenge, her character demanded an authenticity that refused any glamorization. Norma Ray was tough, vulnerable, and painfully real. Sally's performance earned her her first Oscar for Best Actress in 1980, confirming what she already knew. She could carry a film with complex, meaningful material. In a time when female-led dramas were still rare, Sally's work in Norma Ray opened doors for actresses everywhere, showing that women's stories could carry just as much weight as men's. Looking back, Sally reflected on the moment as career-defining, saying, "It wasn't just about proving anyone wrong, it was about finally validating myself." From TV's lightweight comedy roles to emotionally charged, award-winning performances, Sally Field's transformation was nothing short of extraordinary. And while she was finally being recognized as one of the industry's greatest talents, her personal life, especially her turbulent relationship with Burt Reynolds, was entering a new complicated chapter. In 1977, Sally Field was offered a role that would ultimately define a key chapter of her life, both on and off the screen, but it was a role she almost didn't take. When she first read the script for Smokey and the Bandit, she thought it was absurd. In her memoir, In Pieces, Sally admitted she saw little substance in the film and initially wanted to pass. But Burt Reynolds, already a major Hollywood draw, personally intervened. "You're perfect for this," he insisted, convincing Sally to join with promises of fun on set and assurances they could make it work through improvisation. Reluctantly, she agreed. The chemistry between Sally and Burt on screen was undeniable, so much so that it became one of the driving forces behind the film's success. What fans didn't see, however, was how quickly their connection spilled over into real life. Within just a few days of working together, Sally and Burt began a romance that could only be described as electric. Sally later reflected, "We had only known each other for 3 or 4 days, but it felt like years." Their palpable spark breathed life into the film's dynamic and helped catapult Smokey and the Bandit into a blockbuster, earning over $126 million at the box office and spawning 2 sequels. But behind their playful and charming banter was a relationship far more complicated and often darker than it appeared. Burt, 11 years older than Sally, was a Hollywood icon at his peak when they met, famous for his rugged good looks and magnetic confidence. To Sally, Burt initially came across as fun, captivating, and secure. In reality, beneath his charismatic exterior, their relationship harbored deeply ingrained issues that would ultimately lead to its breakdown. One of the early cracks in their partnership was Burt's controlling nature. "From the moment I walked through the door," Sally would later write, "it was his way or no way." While Burt adored her, he also sought to dictate much of her life, from her career decisions to her personal habits. At times, Sally described it as being swallowed whole by his larger-than-life personality. Burt, too, struggled with her growing fame. While he first supported her leap into serious acting, the attention she began receiving, especially after Norma Ray, often triggered feelings of jealousy. During public events, it wasn't uncommon for fans and reporters to ask for Sally's autograph over his, leaving Burt visibly frustrated. Adding to these tensions were whispers about Burt's struggles with drug use, something Sally was deeply troubled by as their relationship developed. He frequently used medications like Percodan and Valium and was rumored to undergo strange collagen injections in his chest. Concerned for his health, Sally secretly arranged for Burt to consult medical professionals at the Miami Heart Institute. The tests revealed no major health issues, but Sally wasn't convinced. To her, Burt's physical insecurities and reliance on medication were signs of deeper emotional vulnerabilities he refused to confront. When she suggested he seek help for stress and anxiety, he brushed her off, labeling her concerns as poppycock. For Sally, the relationship was a constant tug-of-war between love and frustration. Despite the toxicity, she described their bond as a perfect match of flaws, admitting there was something magnetic she couldn't quite let go of. However, decades later, Sally would shock audiences by revealing that some aspects of her relationship with Burt were far from romantic, especially their on-set moments. In a candid 2022 interview, Sally admitted that her on-screen kiss with Burt in Smokey and the Bandit was the worst kiss she had ever experienced. "It was just not something he did very well," she quipped, adding humorously, "There was a lot of drooling." The statement left fans stunned, as her effortless chemistry with him had become a hallmark of their work together. Still, as the years passed and their careers evolved, cracks began to deepen in their relationship. By the early 1980s, Sally's fame was skyrocketing, while Burt's career began to plateau. As she began winning Oscars and taking on films that showcased her talent, Burt continued to feel overshadowed. This created an emotional wedge between them that neither could repair. Eventually, the relationship ended, but it wasn't a peaceful goodbye. Despite their undeniable connection, Sally and Burt went their separate ways, and their lives moved in opposite directions. While Reynolds publicly declared in 2015 that Sally was the love of my life and lamented, "I don't know why I was so stupid," she never reciprocated the sentiment. Sally later revealed that they didn't speak for the last 30 years of his life. To her, the romance, though formative, was filled with too much pain to rekindle even a platonic connection. Sally's relationship with Burt Reynolds remains one of the most talked about chapters of her life, a complicated mix of passion, pain, and regret. And while they captivated audiences with their undeniable chemistry, what unfolded off-camera tells a far more human and heartbreaking story. By the mid-1980s, Sally Field had become a household name, proving her talent in a career that blended critical acclaim and box office success. But behind the public accolades, she faced intense personal challenges. In 1984, Sally won her second Oscar for Places in the Heart, portraying a widowed mother struggling to save her family's farm during the Great Depression. Her heartfelt, grounded performance resonated deeply with audiences and critics alike, but it was her acceptance speech that made headlines. Sally's emotional exclamation, "You like me. Right now, you like me," was widely misunderstood as a plea for validation, though she later clarified it was a moment of self-acceptance after years of fighting for respect in Hollywood. Determined to showcase her range, Sally took on roles across genres. In Steel Magnolias, 1989, she played Malin, a grieving mother in one of film history's most heart-wrenching scenes. Sally insisted on an unscripted, raw portrayal of grief, which became a defining moment of the movie. In 1993, she surprised audiences again by starring as Miranda in the comedy Mrs. Doubtfire. Initially reluctant, Sally feared being overshadowed by Robin Williams' explosive humor, but she was praised for bringing emotional depth to the chaotic family dynamic. Off-screen, her personal life was more turbulent. Sally endured 2 divorces, first from high school sweetheart Stephen Craig, with whom she had 2 sons, and later from producer Alan Greisman, with whom she had a 3rd son. Balancing her responsibilities as a single mother with the demands of fame left her emotionally drained. Sally also battled depression and struggled with self-doubt throughout her career. The pressures of Hollywood's beauty standards exacerbated her insecurities, but she used her pain to fuel her performances, transforming personal challenges into emotional depth on screen. Despite these obstacles, Sally's career was filled with resilience. She became an icon of strength, showcasing her ability to navigate both dramatic and comedic roles with ease. Through it all, Sally redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood star, balancing immense talent with human vulnerability. And while her career thrived, Sally's focus began shifting toward a deeper purpose: advocacy and activism, where her influence would leave a lasting legacy beyond the silver screen. While Sally Field's extraordinary career defined her as one of Hollywood's most talented actresses, her impact extends far beyond the screen. Over the years, Sally became a passionate activist, championing causes close to her heart and using her platform to amplify marginalized voices. One of Sally's most personal advocacies began at home when her youngest son, Sam, came out as gay at 19. Sally immediately stood by him, offering unconditional love and support. That experience inspired her to become an outspoken ally for LGBTQ+ rights. In 2012, she was honored with the Ally for Equality Award by the Human Rights Campaign, with Sam presenting her the award in a moment as moving as it was symbolic. Standing in front of an audience, Sally shared her fierce belief that every child deserves equal rights, saying, "It's the right of every child to love and be loved openly." Her activism didn't stop there. Sally became a vocal advocate for women's rights and access to health care. In 2017, she joined protests against healthcare rollbacks that threatened protections for people with pre-existing conditions. She was even arrested for her activism, an incident that highlighted her fearless commitment to fighting for change. To Sally, staying silent was never an option. In addition to her activism, Sally showcased her artistic range by transitioning to Broadway later in her career. In 2002, she starred in The Goat, or Who is Sylvia?, a provocative and emotionally complex play that proved she could master live theater just as effortlessly as film and television. Her stage work expanded her already impressive repertoire and positioned her as an all-encompassing performer. Sally's contributions to art, activism, and culture were recognized on a national level in 2023 when she was inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. This prestigious honor cemented her status as not only a gifted actress, but a true cultural icon.